This video will contain some spoilers for the Rebels Season 3 episode, Holocrons of Fate. In the climax of the most recent episode of Rebels, Maul and Ezra join a Jedi and Sith holocron, an act which is said to reveal any knowledge the joiners seek. Maul simply says he desires hope. Ezra wants to find a way to destroy the Sith. What they actually see is left off-screen, but two key phrases are uttered by the characters that give us major hints as to what was seen and where Rebels might be headed in the future. Maul says, "I see him," and Ezra says, "twin sons." Also, as he escapes, Maul keeps saying, "he lives." I think, along with most of the internet, that Maul and Ezra saw Obi-Wan Kenobi and the planet of Tatooine. There can, of course, be multiple interpretations, but I generally follow the rule of Occam's razor, which states that between any number of explanations, the simplest is usually the best choice. Let's start with Ezra's phrase, twin sons, because I think that's more cut and dry. There are more binary systems in the universe. Mon Calamari, Halcyon, and even Endor all have 2 stars, but the one everyone is most familiar with, and also the only one you could know just from watching the movies, is Tatooine. Ezra mentions that he doesn't know if what he saw was an answer to his question or Maul's, but I think Tatooine could also technically show Ezra the way to defeat the Sith, just not in the way that he expects. I mentioned this in my full review of the episode, but Luke is currently on Tatooine, and he is the key to redeeming Anakin, who in turn destroys the Sith. Remember, Kylo Ren and Snoke are not Sith, they're something new. Moving on to Maul, when he says, "I see him" and "he lives," who is he referring to? I've seen some people throw around Savage Opress's name, and I don't think that's the answer. We saw him die. Maul saw him die. Technically, we've seen Maul survive worse, and I would say it kind of lines up with his search for hope, but I just don't want to see another character come back to life. Again, Occam's razor. If Ezra is seeing visions of Tatooine, it stands to reason that Maul is too. I believe he is seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mentioned this in my review as well, but I would guess that Maul's hope is that Kenobi is alive so that he can hunt him down and destroy him. So, assuming I'm interpreting their visions correctly, what does that mean for the future of the series? I think it's very likely we'll be taking a trip to Tatooine for a visit to Obi-Wan. Most likely, Maul is headed there to take on his old nemesis, and the crew of the Ghost will probably be able to find the planet based on Ezra's vision. Although, I don't think they'll head there right away. If you'll remember back to Season 2, we got a mid-season trailer that revealed a lot of fun stuff like the return of Princess Leia and Maul. I think we'll get a similar mid-season trailer this year revealing the return of Kenobi and his confrontation with Maul. Before that happens, probably in the first half of this season, Maul will become involved with all this Night Sister magic, which apparently he uses to possess Kanan, Sabine, and Ezra. We don't know what the deal with all that is yet, but maybe Maul wants to use magic and possession to help his chances fighting Kenobi. He could attempt to send 3 possessed lightsaber wielders after him. Although, we've also seen shots of a possessed Maul, so maybe that plan backfires, or maybe I'm just way off base. At any rate, I'm guessing all that business will take place before we see Tatooine. There isn't much to speculate on regarding Maul fighting Kenobi. We know Obi-Wan survives. Really, the only question is whether or not Maul survives. Again. I think from a storytelling point of view, having old Ben finally defeat his nemesis of over 30 years would be very satisfying. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the final death of Darth Maul. I'm far more interested in what Kanan and Ezra will experience on Tatooine. Will they meet Kenobi? Will they meet Luke? First, right away, I hope any interaction with Luke is kept to a minimum. Let's see him in the distance. I don't want Luke's involvement with the rebellion to begin until A New Hope. But I would be completely okay with lots of interaction between Kanan and Kenobi. They know each other to a degree. There's history. I imagine Kanan would have lots of questions. A face-to-face conversation between Kanan and one of the most famous Jedi Masters of old would be incredible. Maybe Kanan would ask Obi-Wan to join them and Obi-Wan would politely decline, citing his age or the fact that he has his own mission. One problem I see with the crew of the Ghost meeting Obi-Wan is if they actually call him Obi-Wan. I'm about to get really nitpicky here, but in A New Hope, old Ben claims he hasn't heard the name Obi-Wan in a long time. Rebels Season 3 takes place 2 years prior to that film. I guess technically 2 years isn't a short amount of time, but I do like the thought that he hasn't been recognized by that name in nearly 20 years. There are certainly ways to get around that, and even if they don't bother, it's not a deal breaker. It's just something I hope the writers take into account. The same problem could be said about Maul. It's possible Maul will meet Obi-Wan and the crew of the Ghost won't run into him at all. In the Clone Wars, Maul almost exclusively calls Obi-Wan by his last name, so not hearing the name Obi-Wan in a long time still makes sense. What do you guys think? Will we see Tatooine this season? What do you expect to see there? Or do you think I'm way off base? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.